Oh, it is amazing. All right, looks like we're live. So, hello everybody. Let's see, I just want to double check this because we did have some technical difficulties from Mercury retrograde, it must have been.
It must be.
So it must be, but we're about 23 minutes after the hour. But that's just what happened. So anyway, so glad that you're all here with us, and you'll probably be seeing the replay later. My name is Melissa Moore, and we're starting a series of different interviews. And today we have the amazing Judith Tripp, and we're going to talk about the upcoming Women's Dream Quest, which will be held November 17th and 18th of this month in San Francisco at Grace Cathedral, where we're all welcome to come and sleep in the cathedral and do ceremony and ritual together. So here's Judith Tripp, and Judith, to introduce Judith to you, Judith's work, which she calls Circle Way, encompasses her passions for individual healing work through psychotherapy and spiritual counseling, the Women's Dream Quest, pilgrimages to Avalon, retreats and workshops all over the world. She's also a flute player and does vocal recordings, and her book Circle Way, the story of the Women's Dream Quest, came out a couple of years ago, and it's an incredible book, so we'll show that. She's also trained in transpersonal psychology and has been a licensed marriage and family therapist since 1983. She began her work in Women's Dream Quest in 1987 at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. Today she leads Dream Quests all over the world and is on her way to Aussie land, to Australia tomorrow. She's been involved with the Labyrinth organization Veriditas since its inception and has trained as a Labyrinth facilitator in 1996. And she began her work at Chartres Cathedral in France and her Avalon pilgrimages in 2000. So through the years, she's worked on musical offerings, producing Homage, Return Again, and To Bless the Walk. Her book chronicles the past 25 years of her work with the Women's Dream Quest. So welcome, Judith. So amazing to have you here.
Thank you, Melissa.
So
glad we got the technical difficulties out of the way.
We did, and I know that we're amongst friends, so that is even better. And yeah, woo! So if anybody else is experiencing flip-flops in the last couple of days, we're not alone. So yeah, so let's just dive right in. Okay. So Judith, yeah, please just tell us about the history of the Dream Quest. And this is the 30th anniversary of the Dream Quest, so please.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think back to 1987 when we did the first Dream Quest. It was before the Labyrinth was even in Grace Cathedral. And a group of women from the community came to create an overnight event for women in the cathedral, and it was initiated by Lauren Artris and also another woman priest, Elaine Gilmer, who had decided that it was time for women to sleep in the cathedral. So the first few Dream Quests were wild and woolly events with many, many people coming, and over the years it's sort of found its rhythm and its place in Grace Cathedral. And I'm so grateful to Grace for giving us the opportunity to use the space for 30 years. And we've had the opportunity just to live as a women's community for at least the magical 17 hours that we spend together, which sometimes feels like a decade by the time we leave. But it's been a real privilege and a wonderful thing to be able to do this. And for those of you who haven't been to a Dream Quest, it entails large group ritual and ceremony, lots of music, lots of song. We learn a bunch of songs that we use within the Dream Quest as we begin Dream Quest. And then there's small group meetings, and then there's also a spacious time at the end of the evening where there's healing and art and various meditations in different areas of the cathedral. And we just use the space as our temple for the night. And it's a really lovely experience. I think everyone who's awakened in the middle of the night in that beautiful nave has never forgotten that experience. And then we sleep some and wake up in the morning and have some more program and leave by 11 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. I went last year for my first Dream Quest where I met you there. And it was a friend of mine saying, you must go, a friend who introduced me to the labyrinth. And it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, really. I had never been, we were there, and I've studied art history and have been to churches all over the world. And to imagine going and sleeping in the cathedral and all of the significance and, stepping from the outside world into the spiritual world and being able to spend the night there was incredible. And the creativity, and that was the other thing that was so powerful. It was so creative, and we did crafts and all kinds of, you have group leaders who make altars around the cathedral. And so it's magical. It's really like nothing else. And I remember waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Had set an intention that I wanted to walk the labyrinth there by myself. And at 4 in the morning, woke up. I had my sleeping pad on the floor kind of nearby and woke up, and there was one little light. It was dark, and, and there was just noises of sleep. And, which was incredible because you're in the cathedral. And I walked the labyrinth, and there was one single light just coming down. And it was divine, magical.
Yeah. So I always feel like Grace rather opens her arms to us, and maybe even enjoys people using the space in that way, and in a time of meditation and prayer, and in a very sacred way. So I agree. I mean, I've been coming back for more myself all these years, and there's a group of women who leaders who are therapists and teachers in their own right, and always come back every year, small group. So it's a real team effort. I mean, privilege of facilitating it, of leading it, of choosing the theme, and also creating usually a kind of a production number at the beginning, like a dance and song experience where we all do something together. And this year, as we dream our theme, there will be a spiral dance on the labyrinth and a number of other audio-visual kind of components to it. So we get to do something grand in that beautiful space also. And I think for women who come back year after year, it's a touchstone to their spirituality in a particular way.
I heard an interview, Lauren Artrest interviewed you several years ago through Veritas, and you were talking about the importance of, what it really means for us to, step into this ritual space together, and also use this word, like receiving and accepting that we're moving into this space together, and very deliberately.
Right.
And I found that really moving because we come from this world where we're moving all the time, and I've never experienced this, and grew up in Judaism with lots of ritual and lots of ceremony, but I have never experienced this with women in such an ancient way. So maybe you could just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that really, I kind of think of us agreeing to go into the dream time together. And by that, I mean a different kind of consciousness. We kind of call it, in terms of time, as kairos time versus chronos time. And I think it's also, it's a relaxing into being held by the space, by the other women in the circle, and by the labyrinth, so that there's a sense of being able to maybe explore the land of the soul in a way that we don't in ordinary life. And somehow having it be 17 hours, not days and days, it also gives us a frame that our psyches understand. And we can go into this depth of experience that is, I think, very unusual. And I noticed the faces of everyone in the morning after we've been through this experience together are usually quite opened and we've had stories of people having all kinds of incredible transformative experiences and making big life decisions. And we need these places in our lives that allow us to put our psyche on notice and say, this is the time we're going to do this. And doing this with a collection of other people really does work, and is also, like, as you were saying, unique in our world, because there's not a lot of that going on.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And joining together with women, some women came with friends, some women I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know Kathleen, but I didn't really know anyone. So everyone was so warm and welcoming, and it really was this time where time stopped.
Yeah.
And it was, and you say the 17 hours, and I just feel that.
Yeah.
Because actually, and I was even rushing to the airport right after the Dream Quest, and was kind of still in this space. Just traveling, and it lasted with me for like a couple of weeks. I mean, it really was into my body, and 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 a lot of things showed up, like I just said, major transformation showed up, as time went by, and just kind of, integrated in. So, wow. And, wow. So where have you presented the quests?
Well, as you said at the beginning, I'm just about to go to Australia, where I'm going to do 5 different events. There'll be longer events than the overnight at Grace Cathedral, but that's my next adventure. I'm beginning very soon. But I think probably the furthest afield I've gone is to Warsaw. And my friend Sylvia created a dream quest there, gathered up 65 women who came to a gymnasium in Warsaw. And there were small group leaders chosen among women that she knew that were working in women's spirituality circles. And I was translated, which was a wonderful experience. Lovely woman that just stood right beside me. We were shoulder to shoulder, and I could feel like the words I was saying were coming out of her mouth sounding like Polish, which I have no knowledge of, unfortunately. But it was a very heartening experience, because it was a very different culture and women who had lived through a very difficult history and are unfortunately living through that history again. But it worked. I think, I call my work circle. I think just coming to the circle, as opposed to sitting in rows or being in a hierarchy, brings a certain consciousness that is, in the essence of the sacred feminine. And so we all know how to do that in our bones. And the women in Poland certainly did. It was very easy to make everything work. We translated Return Again, a song we use a lot in the Dream Quest, and we translated that into Polish. But the other songs were, easily enough translated a bit, and then the tunes carried people. And the exercises that we do, I adapted to that circumstance too. But it was a wonderful experience to do it in Poland. But I also routinely do Dream Quests in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is particularly poignant. And I've also done work in Portland and Chicago, and for a while down in Tennessee, right outside of Memphis, which was probably as far afield as Poland in many ways in terms of people's sensibilities. And and I'm always welcoming new opportunities to take the Dream Quest different places. So.
And you just went to Hawaii as well, and
we did.
Quest, which
is
quite magical.
Yeah, quest up in the Waimea Canyon on Kauai. So it's wonderful to be able to take this where I go, and again, it's just that sense that women are hungry for coming together and having the opportunity to do personal healing, as well as to find themselves as agents of change in the world. And sometimes gathering in the circle and working on the personal and filling up with the presence of others allows us to do whatever work we're supposed to be doing in the world in a more robust and supported way. And we all know that these are times that are calling us very strongly to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, with the community of women that I'm associated with and then being part of the Veritas Labyrinth community and doing sacred ritual and ceremony in the labyrinth has just been, you know, I couldn't do it by myself. And I wouldn't feel, you know, when we walk the labyrinth together, it's like all is well.
Yeah.
You know, and I really usually call in, like, what is mine to do? Who, you know,
Right.
What do I need to know now? What is the information that I can take in that's going to be of service to myself, to everyone, to the world? And I always get an answer. There's always something that comes in, and it just goes into your body. Even it doesn't even necessarily, you know, sometimes you know it, but you can't put words to it. But it's there.
Yes.
It's totally there. And, you know, when we walked, I remember we did a ceremony where we walked with candles around the cathedral. And it was as if completely time stopped and we were walking through, doing this extraordinarily ancient, thousands of years old ritual together.
Yeah. I think that there is a remembering of ways that humans used to be, as well as a kind of a foreshadowing of ways we could be. I think back to somewhere in the 80s, before even the Dream Quest. I remember hearing a feminist teacher of the time saying, you know, we can fight against the patriarchy, or we can simply begin to live in the way we know human beings are meant to live, in partnership and in presence with each other. And not that that's an either or, but there is something about affirming the ways of coming together in the circle and acknowledging us all, everyone, and having time for the inner life. And that's really a huge part of this. That is one of the most revolutionary acts we can do. And even though we're pulled to the world in so many ways in these days, it's so very essential that we still have that inner dialogue going on and have experiences that allow us to go back and check in with our being, with our soul, however you want to put that. So I really see that as core with the labyrinth walking and with enacting these ancient rituals of coming to the circle and processing in the cathedral, using our voices, using our bodies. That these things are forever, you know, the things that human beings do to relate to the divine and relate to the earth.
I'm just soaking all that in because it's rich. It's just it's that remembrance. Like when I hear you say those words, it just comes right in, and I'm like, yes, that's you know where the greater truth. We know, and then you know hearing it being reflected, and you know being able to come out and talk about it now freely and safely, at least us in the Western world. This is the work to come. Wow. Thank you for that. And so what is your vision for the Quest community as you move forward? So what are you feeling into after these 30 years? And
you know, what's been good is, you know, when I went to Australia 2 years ago, the community of women who got together out in the Western Desert, on this giant labyrinth, you know, under a banyan tree. They all were very interested in knowing exactly when we were doing the Dream Quest in San Francisco. And there were women in Poland also that were interested in when we're doing the Dream Quest in San Francisco. And I use Facebook and Facebook basically. Sometimes I send emails as well, but just to let people know when other quests are happening. So I think there's an invisible thread between different communities that have experienced this. And so my vision is that, like as I'm going to Australia, I will be posting about the quest that'll happen in Perth starting on Sunday night, which is actually in our world Saturday. It's a day off there. But I would hope that there would be a time of just a thought or lighting a candle or something, a prayer for us, so that there begins to be more weaving between people. And you know that's a community that isn't something you join and pay dues to, but it's a community of heart, which makes the invisible world more present in us. If that makes any sense, I think something happens when we really think about other people who've had similar experiences. And on the Women's Dream Quest site, as well as my, which everyone's welcome to be part of. And you can just tune in if you'd like, anybody who's listening. And I think the more we do that, and we imagine what happens then when we make those connections, that there comes a community of heart. And that's what we've been finding. I think that's the beauty of social media, really. And we need that.
Absolutely. I love that idea of lighting a candle when we know that different dream quests are happening around the world, and maybe going and walking the labyrinth.
That would be great.
At that time, wouldn't that be just powerful? Yeah. So you can find Judith. I'll repeat that again, but it's circleway.com. So that's circleway.com, one word, and then Veriditas.org, Women's Dream Quest, and I'll post those also for women to go to. And so, right, with all of this said, we were talking about the quest of, what's in women's spirituality in this movement that we're moving into. If you had anything more that you wanted to, elaborate on, that would be great.
Yeah, I think the way that Dream Quest has existed kind of quietly in the background almost all these years, it's just been building invisible infrastructure. And I think, there are lots of wonderful events happening for women, and pilgrimages and retreats and guides to individual work. But there's something about coming together in a large group that really works for us, I think. And I hope that even in the future there would be more networks of other quests, because it is a way for us to come together in a similar way and have a similar experience. And so I think it's just a part and parcel of an embodied women's spirituality. And we do use all the senses and all of the ways of learning. And so there's things to do with moving the body and singing and chanting and moving, as well as meditations that open the heart and bring us to a deeper place of knowing. So having a kind of a place where all that happens at once is, I think, the gift of Women's Dream Quest in the world.
Absolutely. Wow. And I imagine, I've been to Warsaw too, and I can imagine what Krakow and Warsaw, and in the 90s and in the late 90s. And it was, it's a beautiful place, but intense energy and what's happening there. And so, so I can imagine that. So I think, there we go. Just even feeling into the women that are there and the place that they are in the world, and bringing that energy about, envisioning women and coming together, and then how much we feel, how much in sisterhood. I mean, I always feel that when I meet, at the Dream Quest, or if I'm at a transformational workshop, or at a lot of different spiritual events. But when you look at somebody and you just feel them, and there's that oneness connection, and you've known each other forever. That's the sense, right?
It gives us an opportunity for that, which, exists in us always. And I think the more and more events and opportunities we have to remember that, then the more there's possibility for this world to shift into a more enlightened space. And that's where it comes from. It comes from our individual hearts opening to each other. Mm-hmm. And sisterhood is a great thing.
Yeah.
And often, I often think that people ask about, well, why isn't there a men's Dream Quest, or why aren't men included? And I do think that's coming. It's been mentioned many times and hasn't come quite to fruition, but this isn't an exclusive event, if I could say it that way. It just is something that celebrates the sisterhood that is different when women gather together. But we certainly are in a place of, I think any time the feminine is honored, there's usually more of a move toward partnership rather than us against them. And so that's, I always like to throw that into the mix. One of the events I'll do in Australia, men will be present. And then I've done a couple of day-long events that are Dream Quests where men have come. And I think that's a real possibility. But Grace Cathedral probably will always remain the sisterhood time. And I do really hope that people will come for this 30th anniversary, because it's marking something, a good piece of work, I think, for a 30-year period.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. I just am like, wow, feeling so blessed to be there. And I hope that everyone who's watching, tell your friends and come and for this overnight amazing experience that is kind of a once in a lifetime experience, each time that you go. It's just, yeah. You think about when you can have an alternative, a moment to feel, to experience other parts of the psyche and other parts of the ancient parts of us, the DNA that has been for thousands of years, that are, it's in our bones. And so excited. So you also do, so just a last, and then we'll wrap up. I know you've got some stuff to do too. And what people can also call you to do a Dream Quest in their area.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's true. Yeah, I think that information is all on Circle Way, but they can certainly, find me online or on Facebook if they're interested in doing a Dream Quest in their area. I think I've got one request right now for Lake George, New York. We're going to work on that, and also North Carolina next year. So we'll see what happens. It's lovely to do it in different areas, and oftentimes the community that forms around a quest, like in Charlottesville, the women that they have, an ongoing women's circle from it. And that's something I really encourage and welcome. So, if anyone is interested, they certainly welcome to contact me, and we can have a conversation about it. I have a planner that I send out that tells you how to do it, and it's be lovely to spread it even more.
Yeah, and then you also get the benefit of Judith playing the flute, and so there's some amazing music, and even that we're all singing together, and Diana playing the harp, which the harp plays all night. Well, not all night, but for a good portion of the night.
Seems like it.
It seems like it. It's all night, and and it is unbelievable. So, so we don't have any questions. I don't think so.
Okay.
That I'm looking for, because I think that so we're just rolling with it right now. But is there any last? Is there anything? So what are you excited about? Anything further that you want to share, or last things in your?
You know, I'm about to go on this big adventure, so that's kind of taking up my whole psyche. But I'm totally looking forward to meeting everybody in November, because that's a special time of the year for me. I love that kind of time right before Thanksgiving, and DreamQuest will be in November instead of October this year, so we'll be spiraling back to gratitude, which of course we need more and more and more of in our world. So maybe I'll end with that, because I have great gratitude for this work, and thank you very much for making this happen with all the technical difficulties, Melissa. And you know, it's great gratitude for the ability and coalescence of the things that I carry, the gifts that I carry, that the ability to give it. It's just something that fills me with great joy.
Thank you so much, Judith. You are an amazing model for all.
Thank you. Okay, now we froze. So we'll say goodbye then.
You know, it ended.
Yeah, it just ended. I did say, well, it looks like we're